Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today I have my day 552 roster review. It's something I do based on popular requests over 552 days. The last one I did was 528 days, so it's about 24 days ago. And I try to do these every 30 days. They're popular videos. And really, the purpose of this video is for you guys to see not only how my roster is growing, but for you to see what choices I'm making and for me to use that as a way of talking to you about choices for your own roster. This is not a flex video. There's nothing to be proud of here. This is not for you to feel, some people say they feel bad or something. There's nothing about feeling bad here. The point is for me to try to give you concepts that can work for another type of roster. Every roster is different, and every roster is going to have different decisions to make depending on the situation you're in, how long you've been playing, whether you're free to play, whaling out, whatever it may be, the alliance you're in, all sorts of what game modes you enjoy playing. I don't believe a lot in one size fits all advice. What my goal is to provide you the tools so you can make your own decisions. So last time at 528 days, I was at 15.9 million. So 15.927. So I went up almost 1 million in only 24 days. So now, last month was my slowest pace. I was over 30 days and I had been under 1 million increase in over 30 days. Now I'm picked up the pace. And the reason is entirely due to the fact that I've hit level 85. Most of my focus over the past month has been on leveling characters to level 85. So what I do, you may say, well, Flosser, you got 30 million gold. Why are you not, leveling more characters? And the reason why is I try very hard to stay under this milestone right here, 2,375,000. So what I'll do, I'm at 1.9 now. And so I know, okay, I need to get 475,000 roughly. 474,000 is where I need to be. So I'll go to a character that needs to be leveled up. Let's just say I want to work on my symbiotes and I do Symbiote Spider-Man. I literally go here and I go till there's 474,000. And then I stop. And then this way I hit that milestone to get the rewards. And that's it. Or I'll do 475. That's fine. So, that'll get finished later on. But this way I know I'm only going to the point where I get rewards. Now, I used to do this all the time. There's an important exception for me now, which is when a new character comes and I do the stream and I record videos for you guys. I take those new characters up to max in one day, which is not efficient, not what I would suggest you to do. I do that purely because no one else is doing that as a content creator and people want to see that. What I want to break down is, of course, you can see that some of my investments here are because of that, right? I'm just blowing these characters up to maximum on day one. I did the same thing with Shang-Chi, who I hadn't even unlocked last time I did the video, and then I got him all the way to maximum. I do that for content creation purposes. I also am in a situation where I'm like a war captain of a top alliance, so I'm very focused on war, and not everyone would be. So I wouldn't recommend Heroes for Hire as a team for people who are not interested in war very heavily and are Endgame, unless you need the team for a specific purpose. I'll talk about that in a minute. But here, as to the new warriors, what I would say is I think everybody should be trying to build them up. And the reason why is, even if for Mystic, so what I would say is this: if you are a new mid-game player, I do think Cloak and Dagger will have value in Dark Dimension. How much, I don't know yet. I've only tested them in the first 2 nodes in the test server, and they did very well. But I suspect they'll have value in City Dark Dimension. So I think that is a value for everyone. They are also Mystic, so they might help newer players in the campaigns, right? So is Deathpool Mystic Hero. So they may help you in the campaigns. and cosmic campaign for her as well. In addition, and by the way, the Cloak and Dagger are city heroes, so they will also be helping newer players in Heroes 7.1 to 7.3. But I also think for more endgame players who are working in the Doom raid, whether it's a base difficulty or difficulty 1, these 3 are going to be part of the new best Mystic rating team. Same thing for Doom Raid 2. So I've built them up. I also think they're going to be very good in War. I tested them in the test server. You could see the video footage that I had. I think just they are a good overall team to invest in because they are post Great Reset. They are post Power Leap, whatever you want to call it. In this game, they have these super stats and kits. Another, big team that obviously I have put more investment in is Heroes for Hire. As I said, I made this investment because I'm in an alliance that is super endgame, right? One of the largest alliances. I'm the war captain. I'm setting an example, and we are very focused on war, and I enjoy war. If you don't care about war, I wouldn't be making a massive investment into this team, but you can see, this is a whatever it is, 823K team, and I've made some ISO changes to this team. I've made Luke Cage a fortifier. It's impossible to test at this point. I'm not confident this is the best choice, but on paper, it seems like a good idea. Some people are switching Iron Fist to Skirmisher. Otherwise, this is sort of, where I had been, from previously, but I did all the T-Force and Shang-Chi, Colleen Wing, Misty Knight. I put the ultimate on Iron Fist now that it's undodgeable with Shang-Chi. And this is a team that right now is very important in War. Over 1 million power with war buffs, but I'm sure within a month or two it's going to become countered, very heavily, I would assume. That's just how Scopely does these things, which is why they are an investment I do not recommend for almost any player. Very different than the new Warriors. So what else have I done with my roster? Well, you can see a lot of characters brought to level 85, and I basically focused on the characters that I actually use. And one thing I will just say is an important thing to learn is to think about the characters you need and use versus the characters you don't, right? So if I wanted to just gain TCP quickly, I would take my 7 red star aim researcher or whatever, or 6 red star Jessica Jones or whatever, and just bring them up, right? Or 6 red star shield operative, or, all these characters I have that are low star, 7 red star shield medic, I would just bring them up. But it wouldn't add anything to the strength of my team, to my actual roster. So what I've been focused on is making the characters that really matter more powerful. So I'm going to go through each team, and then I'm going to go through some special issues regarding kind of the future and how I'm preparing for that as well. So first of all, you'll just see I can go through in alphabetical order. AIM is basically a team that only matters for campaigns at this point. It's useful for the Doom campaign for newer players. That's really its main value. It's not useful anywhere else. As Guardians are just useful for the unlock. I think Hell has really fallen off. I put some blue ISO on her just so she didn't get one shot in difficulty 1, which she was doing without the blue ISO, but I'm happy to have her off my team. I'm glad I didn't put gear tier 15 on her. Astonishing X-Men, I get a lot of questions about this team. Bishop is the one you can see is the only one I've brought above level 80. He's the one that matters to put a ton of gear into. You always need to have him as a striker. The rest of them can all be skirmishers if you want, because that gives them extra focus. I have had Jubilee as a striker because I kind of like the additional opportunity to land a blind, but it's neither here nor there. What I will just say is really with Jubilee, I don't really care about the size here. I've never brought her to gear tier 15. As long as she lands her debuffs and doesn't die, she's fine. Beast, as long as he doesn't die, he's fine. You can make him a skirmisher if you don't need the extra healing. These two can be small because when Kitty Pryde goes in stealth for 2 turns when she gets low in health, Iceman can res himself. So, if they're lower in health, they actually feed speed bar to, because Jubilee feeds speed bar to Beast and gives ability energy to Beast, who's a better character. So that's I like them like this, and my team is big enough to handle everything that I need, except I don't use the full team on the boss node in difficulty 1.1, but otherwise they basically do everything I need. They're not an important war team if you have everything else built. So I'm fine with them this way, but if I was, if I needed this team more or if I had lower stars on them, I would invest more heavily. One thing I will say is that, you should be aware I'm just saving very heavily in gear. And I am doing that simply because I am expecting that within a couple months, within a month, we should have, I would think, Doom 2 and Doom Raid 2 and Teal Gear. The next I would expect next patch would be G16. I don't know that. I'm just speculating on that, I suppose. And then I would expect DD5 based on what Scopely's told us to come soon thereafter. So, I'm saving up my orange gear because, for example, gear tier 13 is half orange, half purple, and I'm just, concerned that the next gear tier, you need some orange gear to complete it. So I'm just saving my gear unless I really need it. I have a ton saved up. That's my focus right now, is just stockpiling my orange gear to make sure that I can get my characters up to teal gear, the characters that really matter up to teal gear, as opposed to worrying about characters that don't really contribute and bring up characters that are more marginal on my roster. When we go to, let's see, Black Order, I have not really brought up this team at all. I brought up Thanos just because he's one character. If you bring up one character to level 85, it can elevate the whole team. But, for me, this is a team it's often on more defense. So, sometimes on more offense, but I really don't use the team outside of that. It's definitely not an important team for me. It certainly has some value in the Doom campaign for newer players. Brotherhood's a team I really haven't brought up yet. It still has some value, in war, in war, mostly on war defense. At lower levels, it can have some value in war offense. At lower levels in war. One thing I will mention is we have gotten official confirmation that Sabretooth and Wolverine will be reworked as part of the Weapon X team. I will just say I have not started investing in them yet. If I didn't have other things to do, I would be. So in other words, if you have nothing to do and you're not sure how to improve your roster, certainly I think investing in Sabretooth and Wolverine isn't an awful idea because they're getting a rework and presumably they're going to be meta relevant. But, only if you don't have anything better to work on, because frankly, I'd rather see what I'm getting before I invest. I don't see any reason to hurry into it. I haven't even completed the green ISO, and I'm at a point now where I have tons of green ISO stored up. You can see here. And I'm just not applying it because all the rest of the characters that aren't at 5, level 5 green for me are not important for my roster. So this is, not an important team. It's just sort of a war defense team for me right now. Defenders are not important. Fantastic Four, not worth any more investment at this point. This is, totally power crept team, very marginal at this point. Guardians were not a good team to invest in, a year ago, much less now. Maybe they'll get a rework someday. You could see this is the minimum I did just for an event. I brought a large Elektra because she's on Shadowland, and then these guys at a minimum level with level 1 green ISO just to get 3 stars on an event. I think that's the Catalyst thing. Here's Heroes for Hire we've already talked about. Now, Hydra is one where I've made some investment. I did bring Sniper up to G13. And I put this T4 on Sniper. The reason I put this T4 here is because if you don't put... So this team is now important for me in war because I need this to counter Ultimus Mercs. You can't really use Skeletary against large enough Ultimuses. If you're seeing 7 Red Star, G15 Ultimus is going to potentially erase your Red Guardian. So I can use this team. You don't need a taunt. You actually don't want a taunt if Ultimus is there. So you take out Drax was useful for against Shuri Mercs. It's actually important against like Shuri Mercs, but now against Ultimus, I throw in Sniper. The reason you need this T4 is you always want to make sure that Grenadier is the highest damage, so he can keeps on getting res. So the way this team works is you have Grenadier as the highest damage. Red Skull res. So Taskmaster marks him with taunt, kills him, and then Red Skull keeps rezzing him. Meanwhile, Baron Zemo beats the enemy team for you. Well, with Hydra Sniper, if you don't have the T4, he gives offense up to 3 allies. But if he puts offense up on Zemo, but not on Grenadier, just by random chance, it's rare, but it happens, then what'll happen is Taskmaster will put taunt on your Zemo and erase your Zemo, and you lose. So that's why I put that T4 on. But generally, I've just been saving T4s. Really don't have much of a use for them right now. I really believe in not using resources unless you need them. I don't think you should just use resources for the sake of getting a bigger number. I think that's just playing into Scopely's hands, because then you'll have a shortage later. Infinity Watch, I did bring Nebula up to 6 red stars, something I mentioned in another video, just because that's important for that matchup versus Heroes for Hire. Otherwise, this is just purely, and I have put certainly some T4s in the team. I think the only T4 I don't have is don't have Moondragon Basic, and I don't have Nebula Special. Otherwise, I have all the T4s. And that's just because this is a really important team right now for war. So I made it as big as I realistically could without, wasting too many resources. But just to be clear, that's because I had a lot of gold promos. If you are, free to play and earlier on in the game, and you have, and you have a lot of 6 and 7 red star characters, I would not consider that. I would be careful about your use of gold promos. Inhumans are totally power crept, not important anymore. I should just say, just to be clear, Black Bolt and Yo-Yo can still be useful in war, and Crystal. A lot of people in my alliance use their, let's say, G14 or G15 Crystal. I haven't bothered making that investment. I just don't think it's worth it for me at this stage. Kree I keep very low. I rely on Minerva and Phi-Level for the boss node in Gamma. Don't need the rest of them. But you can get by with some of the rest of them. I used to when I was on the Kree lane. It can be enough even at difficulty 3 until the boss node. Marauders, not really an important team anymore. I wouldn't be investing in any of them at this point unless you absolutely had to. Mercenaries, they're better with Ultimates at high levels, but I wouldn't recommend, unless you're a super endgame player, I wouldn't recommend investing in Ultimates for that. Otherwise, it's a good team, but it's heavily countered by Skeletal, unless you have a massive Ultimates, which almost none of you, I assume, would have. New Warrior, we already talked about. Power Armor, totally power crept and it's not worth an investment any further. Pimtech, same thing. I mean, the only value of these are for the Gamma raid, and so that's why I brought Stature up to level 77. If she dies a little more, I'll bring her up to, in levels. I'm not putting any more gear on her, not putting any T4s on her. Ravagers are trash. Shield really is not important. The only thing is, I understand some people tell me at low levels, Platinum 1 or something, they're using Kestrel they see the Kestrel with these characters. I think it's a waste of Kestrel. I think you could use Kestrel with a bunch of random parts to beat a big team on her own. I don't know why you would just throw her on this with these garbage characters. You could beat them with like Axemen or something. It doesn't make sense to me. Secret Avengers, very important team. All around. I just think very powerful even in war, which we've discussed on this channel quite a bit. Shadowland, I will be putting some blue ISO. I have a lot of blue ISO stored up. I think I have maybe like 140 orbs or something, right? What do I have here? 157 orbs. So I will be at some point. I will put some in White Tiger. That's the only character I've brought up here just to make the team a little bit stronger. She's the one you want the biggest. Night Nurse, it would be the second. Sinister Six, I really haven't done much with this team either, other than Doc Ock, who I use in raids. They have some uses, as I've shown recently in my channel, in terms of war offense. At this point on war defense, they're basically an auto lose to Axemen or to symbiotes. Supernatural, really not an important team anymore. I know some people were throwing Deathpool on this team. I don't think that's a good use of Deathpool. And symbiotes, I've discussed investment there as well. I've done sort of a minimal investment there. I'll bring the levels up at some point just because I actually use them in raids, but otherwise, that's it. There, I don't really, I'm going to probably bring all the characters I use eventually to level 85. Uncanny, not an important team at all. More of a war defense team at this point, not an important one. A lot of times people turn it into a hybrid. Wakanda is purely a chaos theory thing. I use these 2 characters in Gamma Raid. I use Shuri still in some of the tech nodes. A lot of people don't. She's none of those characters are very important. X Factor still very important. Longshot, Shatterstar particularly, but the whole team is important for war. They're an important war team. They still have value in a boss node for mutant boss node as well. And some people use them in kind of a hybrid team with X-Men throughout the entire lane of difficulty 1. And then X-Force have really been power crept. They're still a decent team, but they're more against going on the lower end teams or lower meta. Once you have everything else built up, they're just sort of they're falling off pretty quickly because just so to explain why that is, the way this team works is Negasonic with her ultimate brings enemies below 50%. That gives speed bar to X-23, and then she starts killing people. The issue is if the enemies get so much health and Negasonic's damage doesn't scale up enough to bring them under 50%, X-23 doesn't get started and nothing happens. And then also, I guess I should mention here, Wave 1 Avenger, very much a power crept team. Not very important because they lost Black Widow to Skeletal. So not a team that I would invest in heavily beyond what you need them for campaigns at this point. Young Avengers really, I think, never were very important. They had a fringe role in war defense for a period of time. Squirrel Girl, though, is an important standalone cleanse. Her and Emma are two of the, are the 2 fastest cleanser characters cleansing debuffs in the game. One last point I want to make about dark promotion credits. People who are getting close to the cap have asked me what to do with them. I personally just been saving them because I don't really think Ultimus or Ultron are important enough to use any resources on at this point. I did just buy the 6th red star here because I literally was about to hit 3,000, and I don't really care that much about either character. Ultimus is value, and the reason I did this is 750 promo credits to go from 5 to 6 is a better deal than what Ultron costs to get to 1. So hopefully the cost will come down over time for Ultron. And frankly, Ultimus at my level in super endgame stuff, like, whatever, Diamond War, Ultimus is actually a key war defense character right now. And Ultron is like if he's not a bench, he's like a fringe character, basically, occasionally used in war offense, not used in raids. So, not very important. Hopefully at some point they allow Doom or whomever to enter those dark promotion credits. Overall, though, my focus right now is just getting my roster up in terms of level, saving my gear for Teal and for Dark Dimension 5, and just continuing my performance in Doom Raid. This is very much a quiet point in the game, and I'm really hoping that things pick up soon with that new raid and new Dark Dimension. Looking forward to racing there and sharing my progress on this channel. All right, guys, if you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. If you got comments, leave them below or go to my Discord. That's linked below as well. And you can also check out my Twitch stream. That is linked below too.